Hey everybody, Raven here with my partner in coin crime, Stephanie, for another episode of Coin Shop Talk. We don't have a cameraman today, but this is episode number 9, all about the dime. And we're going to talk about everything from cat bust all the way up to the Roosevelt dime. Cat bust dimes are actually from 1809 to 1837, and they are actually a very beautiful design. So for a lot of our close-ups, I'm just going to come in like this and show you guys.
Ooh, there you go.
There is a gorgeous 1835, and these go for some pretty good money because this one right here is literally been cleaned at some point, an old cleaning, and it's still an $80 coin at a fine 15. The reverse is a gorgeous eagle. And this is a little different because, like I said, our cameraman is not here today, but he will return. So there's a lot of varieties in the short amount of time that they made these. Matter of fact, if I bring in the book,
there we go,
and show you guys, you can pause this section and take a look at the different varieties. But the amount of money that some of these bring in, like the 1822 is literally only 100,000 made, and a G4 is $2,000. The 1829 medium 10 cent is $5,500, and they don't even have a population for it in the book.
What does it mean, medium 10 cent? Is it the size of the...
Where it says 10 cent on the reverse?
The
yeah,
size.
the size.
So just one of those little varieties?
Yeah, one little variety. So what you're going to be looking for in that year is right there where it says 10 cent under the eagle. It's going to be a little bit bigger, you know, which I'm sure
special.
Yeah. Which makes it that much more cooler. You get to see my gut. Next, we have the Seated Liberty.
I like leaded better.
Leaded Liberty. The Liberty Seated dime went from 1837 to 1891, and we actually have quite a few examples. Seated Liberties were nice, and that was during a time before the Civil War where, you know, people still were doing pretty well financially. And you can see right here the gorgeous Seated Liberty dimes. Now, the Seated Liberty...
they have varieties too. The early ones was without the stars, which is really pretty with that empty field there, but it looks like it's missing something because, you know, you look at all the other coins and there's usually something there. So when they added the stars, that just kind of touched it up.
It filled in the field.
Yeah,
and then there's also arrows and no arrows.
Yes.
It's one of those coins that's a little bit more manageable as far as entry-level prices. There's some in here in the G4 that are only $20, $15. You know, but any of these that are MS are decent price, you know, $1,300, $3,750, $7,000 for no drapery, which, you know, that's this little thing that's over her legs.
But you have to be able to tell whether there's a drapery or not, and it has to be high enough quality for that. And most of the ones I see are not.
Yeah.
The ones in my price range are not.
No, the ones in most people's price ranges look a lot like this slick girl
Silhouette.
right here. Yeah. You know it's a Liberty, but you're not reading Liberty or anything in it. Ones that you really want to get your hands on if you're able to is something like this 1891 O, which has gorgeous amount of detail to it. There's also Carson City coins in the Seated dimes.
Right, it's not just the Morgans where you're going to find those desirable CCs.
Yeah, which I always think is cool. When you look at that, you got the little CC at the bottom.
I think it's cute because it's smaller.
And so that then leads us into, oh wait, this one's really nice. Too bad this one is clean, but man, the detail on that,
Nice.
look how gorgeous that is.
Too bad that was ruined.
Yeah, you know, people, here's the thing. I've been talking to a lot of the old timers and people in the 20s and 30s, they would get a dirty coin and they would clean it. They thought that was a thing to do. So unfortunately, when you see coins that say old cleaning, that probably happened almost 100 years ago in some instances. I got a little story that's interesting. A guy came to a show and he had an entire binder of trade dollars. like
A whole binder.
a whole binder,
Wow.
pretty much every year. Beautiful coins.
If I saw that many walk in the door, I would immediately think fake, 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 fake.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And so a couple dealers looked at him. A couple of dealers made some serious offers. He said he's going to go home and think about it. Next day he comes in. You open that book and they're all shiny. He had literally went home and polished every single trade dollar. That went from being, you know,
He wanted to make them more valuable because they'd be more pretty and shinier. Ooh,
Yeah.
ouch.
which is very unfortunate, and we see that quite often in
I'll
the
leave that for
shops. We got you something to clean up, Sean, for leaving us hanging. No. So Sean is he'll be back. He's got to take care of some stuff, but that leads us into the barber dimes. Now, as we spoke of before, the barber dime, the barber half, the barber quarter,
The whole series.
the whole series, you know, most people didn't really like the coin. It was considered very masculine, very unattractive. So it's hard to find them in really high grades. Like, to give you an idea, here's an 06D that's in XF45, that's about one of the higher grades you're going to find. And you see it's reasonable price at $55. But if you found that same coin uncirculated, would be insane amounts of money.
Well, we have this one here, AU, but it's been cleaned, so it's only 59. Here, you can reach better than my gadget arms. Don't go that far.
Go Gadget Arms. And we apologize that this is a little bit different format, but you know, we're making best as we can to give you guys some information. But these were designed by Charles Barber, just like all the other barbers. And you know, this series, like I said, if you could find yourself an 1895 O that's uncirculated, you're talking $6,000 to $14,000. You know, it is one of those ones that's still expensive even as a G4.
Ooh,
But for the
yikes.
most part, most barber dimes are not that pricey. $7.75 for a first year, $11, $80, $8. You know, these are the entry level pricings. Which now is going to lead us into what Stephanie will talk to you guys about. And
Ooh, but before we move on, I did want to also point out, because the barbers, they're all 90%, we do also have, in addition to the 90% junk silver that we sell, constitutional, we sell the nicer looking barbers that are still circulated for just a little bit more than the regular 90%. So that's the best way to get, if you're looking for dates or you just need to fill in the spots, our 90% barber, it's right now $5 over melt. Whereas the regular 90 is just at melt.
yeah,
So that's a good way to pick up some of these older ones if you really like the masculine hatted style. I just, you know. All right, so next up we have the Mercury dime, a total misnomer because Mercury had wings on his shoes, not on his hat. But that's okay, because it's still better to call that. I like Mercury better than Liberty dime. I mean, that sounds pretty, but
yeah,
when I think of a Liberty coin, I think of the Liberty nickel.
yeah.
So Mercury immediately brings to mind her pretty face. Her face really reminds me of the peace dollar. I really like the way Liberty was done there, and then of course with the wings, that's signifies freedom, you know, being free and being able to move about. So very lovely, 90%. There's a few that you want to look for. The 16D is the key date that everyone's always looking for.
Okay.
Then I want to say 21S, 31S,
21D.
21D.
Yeah.
They're semi-keys, not quite as valuable.
And actually, the 21 Philly is also
Ah.
because you look at the mintage numbers. So the 16D is only 264,000, and who really knows what survived out of that? The 21 and 21D are 1.2 million and 1.08 million, so 1,080,000, which is extremely low.
The rest
The
of these are
26S, like-
10 million, 27 million, 55 million. So that gives you an idea, you know, where the regulars are. That's how those are so much lower, 1 million and below.
Yeah, and you were right on the 26S because that's only 1.5 million. So, you know, it's interesting to know where these coins are, what you're looking for. There's some really cool varieties. One of the nicest one is the 41 over 40, or 42 over 41 over date. And they show a really cool example right here where it literally looks like 19412, you know, and that's like one of the more famous ones to find. In a G4, you're at $400. In an MS 63, you're at, let's see here, 5,500. But if you can get a 67, that's a $36,000 coin.
Nice.
That's insane.
I'd love to find that in the junk 90.
Wouldn't it be cool?
Because that's where the Mercury dimes end up. They're in the 90. A lot of people have, there's two schools of thoughts with our 90. They want to get the oldest coins the least expensive way. So that's the best way to get barbers. And if you're looking for dates to fill in, I mean, we don't look through for the micro O or the micro S. I mean, if I see it, cool, but if not, it just goes in the 90, you know. And so, and two, a lot of people prefer the Mercury dimes because if you're exchanging 90, every single Mercury dime is 90. Whereas you jump up to the Roosevelts, some of them are 90, some of them are clad, so you have to look at every one. And I don't know about you, but I can't see dime dates anymore.
No, dime dates are hard on these old eyes. And here's one thing Stephanie pointed out. We get a lot of bags and rolls of Roosevelt dimes specifically. And I would say 2 out of 10 times, I was going to say 8, more like 20% of the time you look at a roll, you find 65, 66, and everybody that has, oops, I didn't know that was in there, you know. And yes, in a lot of instances it's an honest mistake, but there are some people out there that when they come in and they've got 40 rolls, and you look at them, and a majority of them all have at least one clad dime in it. They're trying to get that extra, you know, nowadays $4.
Yes.
For just a rosy dime. That is insane. You know, I complained when it became 12 times face, when it was $1.20.
How old do you feel now?
That was only 7, 8 years ago, though.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That's the craziness of how much silver has really gone up. And right now, silver's dancing $57, $58 an ounce at the time of filming this. So we're going to lead right into the Roosevelts, and Stephanie is our expert in all things Rosie.
I just don't have a whole lot to say about them. Additionally, not one of my favorite coins, not super attractive. I'm sure someone thought this man was attractive. He was married, right?
Yep,
and he was young at one time. That's just maybe not the best picture, but I really would hope after, 46, 80 years, they have not changed the design.
Nope.
80 years.
They really, really like Mr. Roosevelt, President Roosevelt. And the thing that's interesting when you look at Roosevelt dimes, they don't start giving you a price until they're uncirculated, which is a huge difference. That lets you know that there's really no standout key dates. There are some stuff like there's the
errors,
you know, double dyed 1964D. There's a couple of the years like 40, is that a 48? 49 is $26 at a MS63, 49S. You know, some of the earlier years, they do have a little bit of a premium, but you don't really see anything that stands out until you get to the air coins.
And when I get calls on this, I typically let people know, I mean, there's no coin that's going to be worth anything more than its silver value that's a Roosevelt dime. There's no key dates, no semi-key dates, there's a few errors, but if it's a Roosevelt dime and it's 64 or older, it's worth the 90%. If it's newer, it's a dime.
And that's because they're most of what they're talking about is circulated.
Yes, the circulated, you know, in bags that have been kept back for that 90% value.
Yeah.
Now, every once in a while, if we get some really nice ones in a collector set, well, that's obviously different, but just the majority of what we get in here, it's 90.
And it's crazy because you go through these and you're looking at MS63 and above, and you can see row after row, 30 cents a piece, you know. You got the 82 because the 82 and the 83 are worth a little more uncirculated because they didn't make mint sets that year. So it's really hard to find those uncirculated.
Sometimes you can find those souvenir sets from the mint, but that'll only be the P or the D, not necessarily both.
Yep.
So sometimes you can find them that way, but they're still in that old plasticky style where they, you know, didn't keep very well.
And then some people might say, well, Raven, there's special, you know, sets. Yes, there's the March of Dimes set. There's the reverse proofs and stuff that they made.
There's the W recently that they put in the mint set.
96 W2. There's satin ones that happened in the 2000s.
I want to say 2006 to 2010 is when they did the satin designs.
And
But I want to say they run the same price as as a regular uncirculated.
they really do. So when you look at the satins, they have to be at least MS63. 2006, $2.60.
Wow.
That's kind of tells you that, hey, this coin has been in production so long and there's so many of them that it is really one of those ones that unless you have something very special, you're not going to really break the bank with these. I'm thinking maybe in 2026 they finally,
Yes.
update the design or do something, because that's 250 years
Exactly.
of minting money,
Mm-hmm.
so.
And one more thing with the Roosevelts, again, I have them in my book for $1.50, $2 a piece. And really that's because I had to go through and find the dime and put it in a Mylar and staple it and also label it and then put it in the book. And, that's annoying. So
Yeah. It takes work. It's one of those things where a lot of people that come in here that buy our wheat cents and whatnot, and they look through the buckets, we tell them, if we start looking through that, everything's going to be a couple bucks a piece when we put it in a binder, because somebody physically sits there, staples it, writes on it, puts it in the binder.
I'm expensive.
All right, if you want to come visit us, we are at
9118 South Walker, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73139.
If you want to correspond, it's ravenhawkcoins@gmail.com. Our P.O. Box is 721-296, Norman, Oklahoma 73070. Like always, please make sure to take care of one another. We'll see you real soon. Ravenhawk Coins, have a great day.
And don't forget to leave a comment telling us how much you miss Sean.